bull stumped, bear stumped, and now we have two major triggers for a big boy trade incoming.
Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let.
Well, people of camera number 2, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. A very nice and bright, but also cold as fuck morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. We are officially on quarantine, I guess, now, as everything's pretty much closed. So, welcome to Krown's Quarantine Cave, baby. Just you and me now, and I'm fucking pumped about it, as they do construction work outside. So they got to listen to me yell all day, as well as my neighbors. So there we go. That's the fucking evolution of this whole virus. Anyways, we are right now looking at the Krown Trading application right here, which can be found for 100% free at app.krowntrading.net. And we'll be referencing a lot of the data on here, of which we will have charts coming for the more relevant underlying market dynamics, especially the open interest. And it also reminds me to speak about the new module that I've uploaded to the technical analysis program. I think it was about 2 days ago now, which is essentially a continuation of the risk management module, addressing a lot of the long-standing questions that I've been getting for the last couple months, as I wanted to follow up on those. So it's titled Risk Management Evolution and Nuances, or maybe that's a little bit backwards there, but more importantly, it's there for you to view right after the initial risk management module. So if you're on the TA program, please take advantage of that. And that also reminds me that all programs are on sale until the end of the week, which is tomorrow, I think. Is it Thursday or is Friday? Yeah, it's Thursday. It's Thursday, so tomorrow. And no code is needed. It's 20% off. All links are below. You've heard the fucking spiel a million goddamn times, so I won't bore your face with this. But as always, the biggest consideration that I always want to make sure that people have is that first and foremost, I sincerely mean this, take advantage of the free content on this channel. It's probably gonna get most people about where they want to be anyways. And for the weirdos out there, like the semi-TA autists like myself, who want to take them another step further, then yes, perhaps maybe consider one of the programs. Watch the videos that accompany them in the links below as well. They're going to explain who they're for, who they're not for, how to get the most value out of it. And it typically comes down to, or at least my biggest concern is, make sure that you have enough time to actually invest in these, because they're not just a big financial commitment, but they're also a big time commitment as well, especially for the TA program and the options program, both 30 to 40 hours long. The beginners program, obviously a lot less, about 10 hours, but still, what you put in is what you're going to get out. And training's not easy, so it's going to require a shit ton of effort even with those programs. I suppose now it's a less of a consideration now that we're all locked down, sheltering in place, but all good. Anyways, back onto the Krown Trading application right here. And what do we see? We see that open interest is essentially more or less flat from yesterday to today. So we still have the same sort of underlying market dynamics going on that was driving the analysis of basically the past week. And all of that is still very much relevant. And now there's a massively big trigger for the next, I think about almost 10% trade. Well, we can maybe measure it out a little bit later. That's staring us right in the face, and I do think that is probably coming sooner rather than later, especially looking at volatility statistics. So with that said, let's get into the charting action right over here. And starting off with good old BitMEX, we do have a pretty obvious trigger for a trade, which is what I want to reference now. Yesterday, we did technically reject the yellow 21 exponential moving average, but I would say that this rejection is unconfirmed as it stands. The reason why I say that it's unconfirmed as it stands is because we do not have continuation to the downside just yet. And more importantly, even though we do have a little bit of a doji dodo at the top at a major moving average, while open interest more or less flat, while lower term timeframes are hanging out in a rising channel redistribution pattern, while we do see that volume is kind of tailing off left to right, while we do see that volatility is massively contracted, especially on the lower term timeframes, I still want to see us confirm an actual reversal here by taking out yesterday's low at 64.54 on Mexico, and I believe it's pretty much the same on all of the major exchanges. We don't have any wild cards on over here, and that's obviously going to gear the yellow 20-minute exponential moving average back to having a negative slope, and really going to put a little bit more efficacy on the death cross that we got on the exponential moving averages not so long ago on the 13th of March. However, price action very far away from these regions, getting our second test of the 21 exponential moving average right here. It does make you really think. So it offers up two very easy ways to kind of be judging this one. Of course, nothing's 100%, 100% sure in the game of trading. That is famous last words type shit right there. And I'm just making sure that I'm recording and the microphone's working. Someone asked in the comments yesterday, are you ever not recording and the microphone's not working? Actually, yes. There's been several hour-long videos or around hour-long videos where I get to the end of it and then I go back to play and I'm like, well, where's the sound, man? Oh, there's not a record. There was no recording going on. So yeah, it does happen quite often. But I'll have to hire an assistant just for that at some point. It's great. Anyways, so if we do take out yesterday's low on this doji dildo right here, I do believe that would be good enough to confirm this as a reversal, and we will very likely initiate a quick move down, another $300-400 lower to the 6100 to 6200-ish region right here. Test the 10 simple, where I do think that we'd probably have another low time frame bounce. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the lower term time frames when we get there, and then probably continuation back on below 6,000 after that. I do think that that's probably the more likely thing to happen. I haven't even looked at probability charts just yet, but we'll keep that in mind as we go onwards and forwards. By the same token, Bitcoin will have a beautiful, absolutely beautiful and brutal fake out on this if we do take out yesterday's top side, about 69.84. And in fact, I really want to follow up on yesterday's price analysis as well, because yesterday I was looking for a move into the $7,000 region. Did we get the move into the $7,000 region? I mean, we basically tested 7,000, but we got the wild card situation that we were speaking about that happened. That was basically just a quick liquidity grab, which doesn't really give us all that much. So now we have to go back down into the lower term timeframes. We can tighten this analysis up a little bit more. This is what I'm referring to right over here. This is about when I ended my video yesterday. And I said, hey, if you see price action shoot up to like $7,000 and then end below on a 4-hour or especially a 12-hour below about 6,700, which is pretty much what we did, it has to go back down to normality, and we're very likely to go back and see 6,400. Now, 6,400 was essentially tested on that same dildo, so I did not get to trade that one, unfortunately. But for the more aggressive traders out there, you probably you might have been a little bit more aggressive than me in taking it. So we played that the whole move in all the same fell swoop. And now we go back into essentially neutrality from the lower term timeframes. And what we can represent this as is just the game of blue boxes, the same blue box to the downside as we had yesterday between about 64 and 64.50. And the blue box that we had yesterday to the top side does get moved up to represent our top side resistance that has been grabbing all the liquidity around this $6,800 number on a 4-hour closing basis. So either a tick above or below yesterday's higher low probably does it for me. I think that that's likely gonna do it. To the downside, like I said, probably a move very quickly down to about 6,100, 6,200-ish region, small bounce there, and then find our footing for a decent medium-term time frame bounce, maybe in the 5,900-ish region. And by the same token, to the upside, if we close a 4-hour dildo above 6,800 or tick above yesterday's high at basically $7,000, a little bit below $7,000, then I'd look for extension again to yesterday's targets, somewhere right around about 7,300-ish region, which should be in line with the purple 200 exponential moving average from this time frame. So we can make a nice zone right there. I want to make sure that I'm getting this good from a historical perspective. Maybe we need to go to a higher term time frame for this. In fact, definitely we do. As this is not gonna make all that much sense there. There we go. Okay, we have a nice block coming in right here, which I do like, and let's see if that lines up with that proverbial area. And it does. So nice. All right, there you go. Between about 72 and 70, or 72.50 and 73. So I'll put a nice blue box up there. That would be my target if we do break to the north side. But right now I am more or less neutral. I do not have any position going on, and I don't really care to have any position going on right now until we actually break one way or the other, because I just think that this is more or less an easy trade. There's no such thing as an easy trade, but it's the next opportunity in the way that I see it. And to the upside, we have probably like a 5% move. To the downside, potentially a lot more than that. I mean, I do think that if Bitcoin breaks to the south side over time, we'd probably find our way back down to the mid to low $5,000 region. So that's $1,000 plus trade from this price point, which at this junction, on like a $5,000, $6,000 number would be Jesus Christ, man, about 20%, a little bit over 20% move, potentially more medium term. But right now we're going to be focusing on low term timeframes because, well, we see a very obvious consolidation going on within this region. So for myself and my own trading behavior, and of course it's not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor. Whenever we're between two blue boxes like this, I do not fucking take trades at all. This is like the worst area to take trades in. I'll take a trade over here. I'll take a trade below here, but not in between. And as it stands right now, would you say that this is flagging out? Yeah, you could certainly say that it's flagging out. That would be the more bullish look on it, but we can cover the bearish look as well. We do see that 4-hour stocks have come down quite a bit here, and realistically, price action has not had really too much damage towards it. So I would say that that's a little bit more on the bullish side, perhaps. We do see that historical volatility percentile is incredibly crushed. It's been steadily declining, steadily contracting ever since when? Of course, the 13th of March, which was essentially our low all the way down here on a closing basis, somewhere right around like 4,300-ish region. More importantly, that does tell us that a big bad move is in the brewing relatively soon. And if we do break to the north side, do I think that we just stop at like 7,300? Maybe not. Probably not. When 4-hour historical volatility percentile gets this low, like we're usually looking at a pretty big move. Last time we were this low was back on over here, before this major move down from about 10,000 to 8,000. Realistically, it just continued onwards and forwards for the next like month and a half. The time before that we were this low was right on over here in late January, before this nice move to the downside, all the way from 9,200 down to 8,300. So we're talking about a $1,000 move essentially. And time before that was coming out of this consolidation right here. Could you say that this was from 7,000 to 10,000? Yeah, I suppose you could. But realistically, that first major splurt to the upside right there for from 7,000, like 8,500 is more or less what I'd be focusing on. So yeah, if we do break to the upside, I do think that there's legitimate possibility for not just a move towards 7,300-ish region, but continuation, maybe even all the way to test the upper $7,000 region, like 7,800 to 7,900. I think that is in the cards. And as we spoke back to the downside, I do think that we'd have the juice to come back down well below 6,000, down to the mid to low 5,000s overall, if we were to initiate that trajectory. 4-hour RSI is not giving us anything right here. Do you look at this as bullish or bearish? There's technically a little bit of bearish divergence going on right now, but I don't put that much weight on it because we are in the neutral zone and it looks more or less like a consolidation to me more than anything else. And I would rather just go with price action, let price action confirm going level by level rather than use momentum oscillators right now, because they're just not obvious. Same thing with the 3-hour. We got 3-hour Stokes coming all the way down. Price action has been more or less flat and steady. I'd say that's more on the bullish side. Historic volatility percentile very, 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 very low here. So these are all confirming that we are going to be looking at a move relatively soon. And when I say relatively soon, I do think probably before end of week tomorrow, Friday, by the time that New York Stock Exchange closes at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Looking at 2-hour, we do see momentum oscillators snaking around quite a bit, not really giving us all that much. Do we have any sort of hidden bullish divergence here? No, we don't. We don't have bearish divergence. We don't have bullish divergence. We don't have any continuation divergences. So there's very little to go off of right now as far as the lower term timeframes go, which is why I'm very hesitant to make a quote unquote call, which I fucking hate. I hate that word call. It's like I called it. I knew it was gonna happen. It's like it doesn't fucking matter. It only matters about trading. Trading is the only thing that matters at the end of the day because, well, at least I and I hope most people here judge themselves by their P&L and not by their social clout, which is why I probably won't be showing too many P&Ls to going onwards and forwards here anyways, because one, for legal reasons, and two, mostly because it seems that a lot of people who are playing that game get into the weird social game, which I don't think I want to be a part of. Anyways, and I'm obviously referencing one person, who had a big kind of blowout last week, and I'll let the market kind of decide, the fate for him. But other than that, man. Anyways, let's get back on to the medium-term timeframes. Talk about a little bit more of this. Or sorry, no. Before we get there. Now, I do want to talk about, even if Bitcoin does take the upside of this and really, goes into the low 7,000s, like 7,300-ish region, does that change around the macro picture significantly? And I would argue no. And the reason why I'd say that is because as long as we are below this rising trend line as our upper resistance and above this rising support trend line as our support, we are in the context of a massive rising channel, which has a very high degree to play out. In fact, the way that I look at patterns in cryptocurrency land, this is going to be different from other markets, by the way. And if you are in the TA program, there is a module at the very end that talks about nuances between different markets. But in cryptocurrency land, I find that triangles work best, and then they're followed by channels. Anything other than that is usually less than 60% hit rate, and as low as like 20% in some cases as far as patterns go, which is why I'm not really a pattern trader. Anyways, looking at the 2 hour right here, or I mean, it doesn't really matter what time frame that we're looking at, but just looking at the low time frames here, we do see that as long as we are below, I mean, shit, even, you know, not just this blue box at about 7,300, but even all the way up to 78, 7,900-ish region, we are within the context of this. Now, keep in mind that the month of March is ending relatively soon. We are on day number 26 of 31, so we end in a little bit less than a week. Next Tuesday is going to be the end of the month, so a million things can happen before now and then. But I do want to be checking out how that would change the picture if we closed, you know, perhaps here, which I don't think that we're going to close here. And I think that is very unlikely that we close here, in fact. But looking at the monthly right here, if we were to close like this would be a phenomenally massive wick to the downside, and that would be a bull wick. If we closed especially above the 21 exponential moving average, which is 7350-ish region right here, I would not be bearish after that at all. No reason to be bearish in my opinion if Bitcoin were to close above there. Now, of course, 7350 is in line with the measure move, with the target and also the measure move that we did have yesterday, which is actually still active as long as we're above 6450. I think it is. Yeah, 6450. That is still pointed towards that number. And if we go down to the lower term timeframes, I mean, we're going down to a daily right now, so not super low, but just going down here, we do see from a volume from a volume profile perspective, the point of control for this price action is actually where it's actually all the way at 7,900-ish region, and we're kind of in no man's land right now. You can see when we zoom in on this area, we did just kind of tap into this upper level of slightly higher value nodes, and you know it certainly is significant, but if we were to actually break above it, it's a free ride all the way up to 8,000-ish bucks, essentially 79.50-ish region, which would obviously make the monthly look incredibly good. Now, as it stands right here, it does look to me like, you know, we've had a rejection on this high value node, and if we're going to get rejection on this high value node, well, probably going to fill in some of the blank space down around here. I do want to pull it out a little bit more just to see. Yeah, okay. Let's see. What if we get 2018? Yeah, more or less the same. We're kind of testing this high value node right here, lower value nodes for the macro, and then we'll just ignore the point of control on this one. Alrighty, cool. So back onto it right here. You know, at the end of the day, I really want to see a break of this doji-ish dildo. It's not going to be 100%, but I do think that it probably gets the price action right. However, momentum also is doing on our medium and higher term timeframes. We do see that daily RSI is. Well, technically we're making hidden bearish divergence as long as we're below about 8,000 bucks, because, well, our RSI is significantly higher than where we were before that breakdown. By the same token, then we have this guy to deal with right over here at 9,100, but I think that's going to be more applicable to the 12 hour, which we'll get into right after this. Daily Stokes are pointed directly north, very erect. Going to be testing the edge of the bullish control zone today, and going to have a chance to close inside of it today as well. So I do like that. Another point in the side of the bull's court. And then we can go over here to the 12 hour as well. And what do we see on the 12 hour? 12 hour RSI is giving us hidden bearish divergence going all the way back. Shit, this one's actually a little bit concerning, as it does go all the way back here towards our 6th of March high at about 9,100-ish region. So as long as we're below there, it is a little bit of a consideration. Not a little bit of a consideration, but a lot of bit of a consideration. We also do see that 12-hour Stokes are pointed healthily north. They did hold on to the bullish control zone right here. I would actually say that this is probably the most promising thing for the bulls right now, and I think that we're likely to test this trend line right here coming in line with the critical zone, which typically you do see a little bit of what's called of counter trend pressure at, exactly. So what does that kind of align with? What kind of picture does this paint? To me, it paints a picture that we probably do test another splurt of the upside, whether it be in the low 7,000s or upper 6,000s. I don't have a strong opinion on, but I'd be so damn defensive against a fake out in this region, just as what we saw yesterday. With this dildo right here. And pretty much the same setup. If Bitcoin were to say, get a wick up into the $7,000 region, maybe even hit that $7,300 target, and then close below this blue box at about 6,800, that's going to be an obvious swing failure pattern, and we get to run the other way quite a bit. And that's when I really would start targeting, down below 6,000 once again. And looking at our low time frame momentum oscillators and realizing that they've been more or less kind of, cooling off while price action's been steady here, I am hesitant to just, this is why I just don't want to blindly short in this region. But as we did say, remember the underlying market dynamics. We are in a rising channel. What is that? That is a redistribution pattern. We are seeing the underlying market dynamics with regards to the open interest remain more or less flat. We haven't seen price. We've seen price action essentially float up to the upside over the last couple of weeks. Open interest remaining flat, somewhat going down. Volume obviously tailing off in a nice orderly fashion, which I really, really like as well, confirming not only the rising channel, but also the open interest remaining flat while volume goes down, while price action floats up. Tells you that this rally is mostly weak and mostly born off of the backs of shorts closing, which can sometimes spur on good reversals, but very rarely do you see a market cycle reversal on that. More importantly, we've never seen a market cycle reversal on Bitcoin without having bullish divergence on the daily at the very least. And do we have bullish divergence on the daily right in over here? No, we do not. No, we do not, unfortunately. All other major reversals in Bitcoin's history, including even just like, all other macro reversals in Bitcoin's history, we've seen that happen. But not only just macro reversals, but also major reversals, like, meaning that it doesn't revert the macro trend, but it does get like a, multi-$1,000 rally. For example, this guy right here, getting 2 drives of bullish divergence on the low before springing up from 6,600 to 10.5. 3 drives right here on this $3,000 move to the upside. 3 drives right here on the last market cycle low, by the way, in December 2018. Several examples right here of multi drives on these failed rallies during 2018, right here, and right here. And then before that, we got to go back to 2014, 2015. We need to get a chart that actually has more price action history. And we can show going all the way back on over to 2014, 2015. Of course, bullish divergence on our major lows right in over there. A couple times actually before those, before the bull traps as well, which is quite nice. And then going back to 2011, 2010, same sort of thing going on. So with that in mind, and let me just make sure that everything is good. Okay, we're good over there. Awesome, cool. With all of that in mind, I am still very skeptical of this rally. Not only that, remember, we do have the 2-day closing tonight, and the 2-day is going to, unless if we have a move before the end of the day, which can very easily happen, it's definitely not out of the question. Definitely not out of the question. But assuming that we don't have a move back above, let's call it 7,300 before end of day, we will either get the death crossed later tonight, which let me just confirm. Yes, we will. We will have another 2-day opening up tonight. So fair enough. This would essentially be a perfect test of major movement averages as we get a very nasty cross like this. Let's kind of look at the last few examples that we have of this. Of course, coming in back from May 2019, during this consolidation, we got the golden cross, shooting things up from about 7,000 to 14,000. Before that, in 2018, we got one death cross right in over here. This is where price action really started to get ground down to the downside. Too many alliterations right there. But you get what I'm saying. As once we get the death cross, then we get shoved below the yellow 20 minus 1 average. That's what really geared my trading activity towards taking that major short from 6,000 to 3,000. And as long as we were below the 21, it was bearish. And that's kind of the way that I look at this one right in over here. We can go back a little bit further than this. I don't know how many other examples that we do have. Obviously, this one over here, a phenomenal entry. And this one over here, a phenomenal direction as well. So same sort of things going on. Anyways, more importantly, what we're doing right here, right now, is that Bitcoin could confirm the death cross later tonight. That would likely be confirmed if we just don't close above 7,300 or above 7,000 for that matter. And then I look for this kind of operate as a doji dodo, take out the low side of it, and then initiate a move back down to the low $6,000 region. So I do think that we get this. I do think that we're going to get a move basically either to 7,300 or to low 6,000 probably in the next day or two. I very rarely say something like that, and I almost feel disingenuous talking about timing of it because I don't think about it that way myself. But I do think that's kind of fun to do. And looking at historical volatility percentile, I think that's pretty damn likely. So high probability of this one, I do think. And we're gonna look at probability charts in just a second here. But momentum oscillators, on the other hand, are more or less okay. But we are going to be testing the edge of the bearish control zone here, which does typically provide some counter trend pressure. So if things are going to turn down, it likely comes from this region right here. Also on the 3-day, which I don't believe that we close one today. We do close one tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. If we do close anywhere below 6,400 tomorrow, very, I wouldn't say very bearish, but good enough for another $1,000 move to the downside at 5,400 and probably lower than that over time. And by the same token, if we close above, doesn't really do too much for me. If we close above 6,900 though, I'd very much look for a run towards the upper 7,000. So a lot of things to be cognizant of here as we come into the week. Well, the next couple of days close. I think tomorrow is probably going to be a more important day than today, but today is going to be most likely going to be ranging behavior. I don't think that we're going to see anything too crazy. Okay, cool. How long? What? This is already 25 minutes long. What the fuck? Let's go check out GBDC and see how GBDC is doing. I haven't looked at this one for a little bit of time. Looking toppy. Looks very toppy to me. Death cross, rejecting the 21 right here. Major hidden bearish divergence between this point at 9.4 and this little high that we had right here, confirmed yesterday. I don't like that one. I do think that this one looks more or less bearish to me. Lower term time frames are hard to read. I don't really have much to say about this. If we go over here to CMEs, how's CMEs doing? CMEs look a little bit more aired on the bearish side here as well, I would say, especially on the daily. The daily having a clear and obvious rejection of the yellow 21 yesterday. Again, same setup here. The death cross way too far away from price action for me to get like super bearish on this, but as long as we're operating below the 21 and it has a negative slope, I do think that we could pop back down here and test upper 5,000s overall. We have the same hidden bearish divergence between 8,000 and where we are right now. So I do put a lot of weight on CME chart. What about the weekly? Is there anything obvious here? No, it doesn't really look like it. Maybe on like an hourly as well. No, you can still make the argument that it's reaccumulating here as well. It's probably gonna be a slow day today. Well, if I say that, that's definitely going to move that. The market's listening. No, how ridiculous can I be? Let's go check out other markets for a second. Let's go check out DAX. What's DAX looking like? Looks to me like it's putting in a local high here. All right. I think that we're probably going to be popping back down. I think we did actually. Let's go check out let's go check out Japan after this. Japan, kind of same thing. So far, so good in rejecting the 21. And traditional markets, we did say that we were going to have a bounce yesterday towards the 250-ish region, and we got it. Hey, we got it. And are we getting rejected already? I think so. So pretty, not the best close of all day. Not the best close of all time, I should say, actually, yesterday. I don't have a strong opinion on this though. I do still think that over the next couple of weeks, it wouldn't be if tomorrow. Okay, it's gonna all hinge on tomorrow's analysis. This is total Friday analysis right now, but we can talk about it. If tomorrow Friday closes above 237, we'll call it, I would look for the next couple weeks of price action to bring us back up to like 265, maybe even 270-ish region overall. But I do not believe it's similar to Bitcoin. I'm not convinced that the low is in. I think that we have a nice local low, and this is a phenomenal bounce thus far, all the way from 218 to 255, 256, just like Bitcoin, all the way from like 4,500 to 7,000. Really, really phenomenal price action. But I'm not convinced on it operating as like a macro low. I think it's I think it's a nice low. I think it's an operational low for now, but the low term time for this do not look good, and I would not be bullish on this as long as it's below about 255 for the short term. If it does get above 255, I'd look for extension all the way to like 265, 270ish region into the next week or two. Very, very likely. But for right now, I think that we're probably confirming another local high right here and going to work our way back down to the 230ish region overall, and that's going to be denoted if we have an hourly digital close below, let's call it 242 and a quarter, which is not so far away from price action right now, especially when this thing's been moving like crazy. Let's go look at gold having one of the better bounces, in fact, and it looks to me like gold is probably going to get a little bit more probably going to come back down and test around 1575. As long as it's above 1575 though, I think I look at this as more or less healthy, and with this having a operating as a little bit of a higher low right here. I do like that. However, I really want to see the weekly close. If the weekly close above 1575, 1580-ish region, I'll be bullish, for a retest of the prior high and beyond. But if it closes below, I am neutral-ish, slightly bullishly tinted, just because the trend is to the upside. I have a tampon in my back right now, by the way, because won't stop bleeding. That sounds terrible. Krown, stop sharing shit about your personal life, you fucking moron. We only care about technical analysis. I agree. I'm autistic as well. Anyways, what else we want to look at? Maybe some of the other, or we can go look at SPY again. Someone asked me to look at the monthly. Does the monthly have major bearish divergence? Yes, it does. But I would say that the easy part of that has already played out. However, monthly jewel sell signal giving us a sell in January, not at the ultimate high. Yeah, we actually did go higher the next month. This would have scared the shit out of me, but it plays out nonetheless. Nicely done, Mr. Jewel. Nicely done. Do I think that we have more downside on this overall? Yes, I do. I don't think that we don't have like the legitimate low end on this market cycle just yet for traditional markets, but short term, yes. Long term, not so convinced just yet, unfortunately. Alrighty, back onto Bitcoin. Let's go back to the lower term timeframes and come up with and look at the probabilities chart, and then we'll send this one off. It's already 30 minutes long. Most important is going to actually be the short term blue boxes right here. Again, 6450 to the downside and 6800 on a close, 60 or basically 7,000 on a wick. All right. Probability. Show me the way. Guide my PP, and we shall see exactly where we need to go. Alrighty, let's see. We're starting off with the 12-hour here. Let's put in our price target at. Let's do the upside first, and we'll do 60. We'll just do 7,000. Make it easy. All right, so this is gonna be the next 12-hour total closure, which is gonna be the next 4-hour as well. Coming in hot and 2 hours, 26 minutes and 13 seconds. 27.34% chance that we actually do take above that region. That's relatively high, and as you can see, the rings are actually squeezing to the upside right here. Not super hard or anything like that, but it is present. So that is actually very much within the realm of possibility. That's quite a high probability, by the way. Anything above 20% is pretty fucking good. Let's see. To the downside, we need what? 6450. Let's see what 6450 brings us. And then we should look at the daily as well. 6450 to the downside, giving us a 37% probability. So it's a little bit more likely that we actually do initiate the downside from this region. I want to check this probability out on the daily as well. And the daily reveals all. The daily does show that the rings are starting to collapse a little bit here, so showing a little bit of downside pressure. But more importantly, where do we see the top side of the first end deviation? Right around 7,300, 7,350-ish region. So I do like how that lines up, as it typically does denote natural pivots within the market. By the same token, for looking at probabilities, it would show that we have almost a 39.5% chance to hit the downside target and initiate the downside move. And by the same token, the upside target would be about, in comparison, a little bit less than 31%. So they are both within the realm of possibility and both really high probability chances, which makes me very strongly believe that we will see this move sooner rather than later. And if I had to call it, I don't have to fucking call shit, man, because it's gonna do it for us. But I would say the downside. It's just more fun being bearish. Fuck this thing, man. Fuck this magic and money bullshit. All this nonsense. No, of course, I actually am a believer in Bitcoin long term, but it would be quite humbling, I think, for a lot of people if this thing did come back down, because so many people are just so convinced that it can only go up. Well, I'm not so convinced on that. But again, my opinion on this, I don't trade my opinion. I trade technical analysis, and technical analysis has given us some pretty nice pivot points. So I will be operating off of that. I think that's going to do it for this video. A little bit of a shorter video. We didn't even look at top shitcoins. We can briefly look at them. Butyrol looks a little bit more toppy. A couple of doji dildos in a row. Fucking wait, don't say that word. Litecoin. Litecoin still looks like she might have another run towards a 21, but same sort of thing here. It looks like redistribution to me. I mean, clear tailing off on volume, but I imagine that the open interest is more or less the same as Bitcoin. It's a hard chart to love. Is there any other altcoins that do anything different? We could look at Link. Nah, don't really want to look at Link. We can look at Link really, really quick. Just out of curiosity. Just out of curiosity. Link, I still think 264, but only if Bitcoin moves to the upside as well. Anyways, let's wrap this bitch up. 4-hour delta closure above 6,800. I technically would be targeting move towards 72 to 7,300ish region, with potential to get more after a short-term pullback there. Maybe even as much as like 78 to 7,900ish region. By the same token, to the downside, below 6,450, or maybe a little bit more conservatively speaking, 6,400, I would look for a move all the way down towards the actually a little bit below 6,000 overall. Although there probably would be a bounce along the way. I think around 61 to 6150, a likely bouncy area, which I'll put in a nice horizontal there right now. Nicely done. As I talk to myself once again. But ultimately, I'd be looking for price action to come here and then put in a decent bounce and then curl over and hit our downside targets all the way down to the mid to low 5,000s. Anyways, for right now, I think it's going to be a little bit more or less boring for the middle of the day for us in the eastern part of the world right now. I want to wish you well once again. I want to say massive thank you for tuning in because well, it's fucking fun, man. It's fucking fun. Like I said, I'll be back on Twitch later today, playing some more Total War. Really looking forward to that. I had a lot of fun yesterday, and I want to thank everyone for coming out there. And yeah, until next time, take care and see you soon.